FreeSpace Social. I'm Kylie Jean, and today we are here with Sergeant Tre Pennie. Sergeant, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Now, you have a very interesting background that all falls under the umbrella of public service.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
you've served the people and protecting them as a sergeant in the police force here in Dallas, Texas, correct?
Right.
And then
right.
you also ran for Congress.
Ran for Congress while I was police.
While you were police, in probably one of the most hardest times to be doing that. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so I'm over the National Fallen Officer Foundation. I'm the president and executive director of the National Fallen Officer Foundation. Support police officers across the country, advocating for their interests. And look, as a 22-year Dallas police sergeant, and a long-time advocate of the community. I mean, I've always worked to try to bridge that relationship between the police and the community. And it's unfortunate that we allowed these radical agendas to come in and tear down what we built for years to keep the community and the police together. And ultimately, that hurt the communities that, the underserved communities that, police they have to be in anyway. So. Yeah.
So in that, I bet you saw a lot of different things from both spectrums. Support and from people who are intentionally voicing an agenda to bring down the police. What was the conflict that you saw in that time?
Yeah, well, I would say, this really started at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. It was 2014 after the Ferguson riots. You saw this whole big push of anti-police agenda. Everyone pushing for, basically restricting police and arresting criminals. I mean, that whole big push and that narrative is what demoralized police across the country. And what we saw was going from 2014 to 2014-15 time frame where it really started ramping up to where attacks start happening against police officers. And I saw this trend. I was actually working on my doctorate degree at the time. And I was looking at how these radicalized agendas was influencing attacks on police officers, and I saw the wave of Black Lives Matter. I saw it coming, but nobody wanted to listen. And in 2016, July 7, 2016, a shooter was radicalized in downtown Dallas and shot and killed 5 police officers, and of which 4 of them were really good friends of mine. And I was thrown right in the middle of my own research. I mean, it was my family, my friends, my agency. I was one of the officers, the organizations that led the relief effort. Yeah. And look, it was a critical time for all of us. Yeah. And nobody wanted to condemn the Black Lives Matter movement. Nobody wanted to condemn the radicals that were attacking police. But I did it. I put it on my shoulders, and in September of that year, I filed a federal lawsuit against Black Lives Matter. I sued, basically everyone from Barack Obama down to, Louis Farrakhan, George Soros. And the reality was I wanted to bring attention to how these agendas were being used to incite violence against police. And ultimately, it got a lot of people's attention.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, we couldn't turn it. We couldn't get the courts to, obviously, these were judges appointed by, Bill Clinton. So, these judges were not willing to move against that narrative. And, we couldn't stop the movement. But I had enough support across the country, because I was going across the country inspiring police. Yeah. I was helping other police file lawsuits. So we kept the movement shut down from like 2018 to 2000. I mean, they really couldn't do anything. They were in court. Right?
Because when I was growing up, police officers were portrayed as heroes.
Yeah, of course.
And there was always a tone of respect that was there. And nowadays, obviously, just in the classroom and the narrative is so anti-police, which we need law enforcement. They're here to protect us. And we really respect what you've stood in the gap and held the front lines for. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Absolutely. I am curious, and for just the average American who may not know, it sounds like you've done such an incredible job of bringing light to the root system and how corruption is connected at the core of things. What can you speak to that?
Yeah, so the other side of that is there's always this political agenda, and what legitimized radical movements like Black Lives Matter was our politicians. Our politicians gave them validity, right? Barack Obama, the president, brought him to the White House and validated him after Baltimore, right? We had the politicians in Congress that are going out with this whole narrative of of defunding the police and you know, shutting police down, so shutting down police agencies. They wanted to disband the police in Minnesota, right? So, you know, you had these real agendas that really hurt policing as a whole, and guess what happened? When they started taking resources from law enforcement, crime and violent crime in these communities shot through the roof. The murder rate shot through the roof. So now everyone's trying to look for opportunity. They're trying to look for ways to rebuild those relationships when it has been broken down to its core. And that was kind of the reason that last week I testified before the U.S. Senate Judiciary about that very issue of how to rebuild that trust. It's going to take time. There's nothing that's going to happen over time, especially if our political leaders don't stop the rhetoric. If they don't stop attacking police and making every issue, every social harm in society about police, about law enforcement, you're never going to change it.
So where can people go to find more information to support you, support law enforcement, and be able to be involved in their communities? Yeah,
you can find more about us at the at nationalfof.org. That's National Fallen Officer Foundation. Look, we have advocacy across the country. No matter where you at, what city, state, we come out. We talk. We engage the community because ultimately we want people to trust their police because everyone needs police in their society, and we can't allow it to be shut down behind these radical agendas.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you
Sergeant,
so much for having me.
it's been such an honor.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you go ahead and check out that website, and thank you for being a part of FreeSpace Social.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.